In the last episode, we saw Margaret successfully hunt her first 2 pigs in Cape York. Margaret insisted it was time for Christie to take a break from camera duties and they would go bow hunting.
So Christie, you know I'm a rifle hunter and I like to walk and stalk with my rifle as close as possible, but you are one of the bow huntresses, so I know it's difficult to walk and stalk with a bow and to get very close to your animal to get that perfect shot. So can you tell me more about your techniques and how you're going to do it today?
Yeah, sure, Margaret. So today we are going to be hunting with a bow, so it is going to present its own unique challenges. So one of the things that are very important to keep in mind is that we have to get a lot closer to the animal. So 20 to 30 yards is an ideal shooting distance for a compound bow, especially on thick-skinned animals such as a large boar. You really need to get close to get that arrow penetration. So one of the things that is going to limit us is the wind. As we know, that's our number one consideration with a walk and stalk, is getting the wind right. So we've actually chosen this particular creek today because the wind is blowing in the perfect direction for us to walk downstream. Another factor that we'll consider is obviously the noise. So the less noise we can make, the closer we can get to the animal, because really we want to find the animal before it sees us. Otherwise we just won't have enough time to get ready and take a shot. So we're going to walk very quietly, ideally through the soft sand, and trying to avoid the crunchy leaves under our feet.
The land was dry, plagued with scars from recent grass fires, and with the area in the midst of their annual cattle mustering operations, the hogs were keeping themselves well hidden. In Australia, blind hunting is not a very popular hunting method. Most bow hunters prefer to walk and stalk. Due to the vast amount of land and low density of species per kilometre, waiting by a waterhole is rarely effective. The girls would need to walk deep into the creek lines, where the animals would be seeking shelter from the heat of the day. Boars are surprisingly well camouflaged for such large, cumbersome creatures. When they have burrowed into the sand under logs or nest in piles of bunched up branches, they often lie still when a human approaches them then bursts out and races off into the opposite direction. Unfortunately, due to the cattle mustering and numerous grass fires, there had been lots of human activity, and the boars were not following their usual patterns.
So it's very dry this time of the year. So our tactic is generally to try and find water, and that's where the pigs will be. It's a bit of a catch-22 though, because where the other animals are, that's where we'll get put up by birds and cattle. So they'll get spooked and therefore putting the pigs on edge. So hopefully it can work in our favour though. We've managed to find some water. There's quite a few birds around this area. You can hear them and see them. So we're having troubles with the wind again. So we've decided we're going to walk down a road for a few kilometres and then cut back in towards the creek, which runs parallel to the road, and then we'll meander our way back to the vehicle and hope we see something along the way. It is starting to heat up, so we've got a small amount of time to get to the pigs while they're still in their beds before they start getting up and moving around as the shade changes and the sand starts to heat up.
Part of the Huntress aim to demonstrate to all people the power of drive, ambition and unity. We aspire to be positive role models for all women, men and children, to be valued for our skills, knowledge, ability to share, learn and succeed, and encourage others to succeed. By mid-morning, the day was heating up. Margaret and Christie were getting quite tired, thirsty and hungry. The meandering creek seemed like it would never end, and there was very little activity, apart from the odd pig that would burst out of a hidey-hole and scurry off into the bush on their approach. But as they headed further from the vehicle, and the prospects of a cool drink, food and the road to a nap, they were rewarded with some fresh pig activity. They crossed the creek as it made an S-bend. They continued on until Margaret whispered that she had seen two young boars cross into the creek from the other side. Christie still had not seen the pigs, but Margaret assured her they were there, so they sought cover about 10 metres ahead. Any minute they would walk over the creek bank towards them and be at a good shooting distance. Christie got prepared and the camera was rolling behind her with Margaret behind the lens. The timing was perfect. The two large-bodied young boars sauntered up and crossed over the creek bank on their side and walked amongst the trees. Straight after the impact of the shot, he ran straight towards the long grass. He left a good blood trail, which the girls followed through the bushes, stopping behind a tree a few metres short of the grass patch. Entering tall grass on the tail of a wounded boar would be potential suicide. And although it might make great television, Margaret and Christie weren't too keen to have to add this hunt to the bloopers reel. Margaret, who is a good couple of feet taller than Christie, spotted the top of his back over the grass. He was standing wobbly on his feet, and the first shot was likely to be successful. But Christie put in a second shot just to be sure. Big boars are renowned for lulling the hunter into a false sense of security, playing dead, then springing back into action when the hunter gets near. The results can be hilarious or very, very serious. Christie crept in with an arrow nocked, and luckily found her boar lying still and dead. Recent dry conditions and habitat disturbance due to bushfires and human activity meant the pigs have trouble holding condition. This pig, however, had obviously been living in a good area, and doing the hard yards on foot, away from the roads and man-made structures, definitely paid off for Margaret and Christie, with the result of this great bow-hunted boar.
Well, congratulations, Christie.
Thank you. Thank you.
You worked very hard for this pig. So tell me about it. How did you experience this hunt?
Well, it's been, like Margaret said, quite hard work and physical. It is stinking hot today, you can probably see. We started this particular hunt early in the morning. We tried a few different spots, which we decided wasn't quite right. So we've ended up walking down this creek line, and it was quite a meandering creek line, so it was winding like a snake. And we'd go around a corner, and then the wind would be coming from behind us and spook everything in front, including kangaroos and birds and cattle, other pigs. So we saw a few before we finally came to this one. So they were actually travelling in a pair. So this young boar with another boar. Spotted them just walking quite peacefully down towards the creek. And so we put in a good stalk, got close to them, couldn't see them at first, and then we spotted them actually. They did an about face and come back down into the creek. So I got into a position, they're actually going to, it looked like, come straight towards us. So had an arrow knocked and ready and waited for them to come up onto the top of that creek bank. As they did, I drew, and this fella was up in front and shot him at 30 yards. He took off, and the other one went back the opposite way. So he was looking pretty crook. He didn't know what had happened to him, so he sort of, we didn't spook him or put him up, so that way he could just peacefully walk along, hopefully find a spot where he would lay down, and then fall asleep, I suppose. Unfortunately, the shot was placed a little bit too far back, so I knew that we were going to have to put in a finishing shot. Unfortunately, as they tend to do, he came into the long grass and hid down there. So we followed his general direction, trying to keep good cover in case we needed to make a fast escape, and also so he didn't know where we were. So I found a good, I was actually observing a spot of blood and thought, okay, this is great, we haven't lost him, he's around here somewhere, and then there we saw the top of his back just over the grass, only just. It was going to be too unsafe to get any closer, so I took another shot from there, and then it was a little bit of a wait to just let him
Just a
die.
safety shot. It wasn't necessary, but just for our own protection, I would say.
Yeah, and these guys are just so tough. Sometimes you put many arrows in what you think is a perfect spot, and they just will not let go. They're absolutely persistent. They're survivors. They just want to live, and you can see that's why they survive out here, because they are so tough.
Join us on the next episode, where Margaret gets a taste of true top-end hunting, chasing a wild boar in true Cape York fashion, in bare feet. See ya.